So, freshman year was a tougher time for me. I didn't really have a group of friends, and I was a little horny gooner. I heard the stories of my friends hooking up with girls, and a lot of kids were starting to have sex for the first time. I remember my gooner ass would walk around with a condom in my wallet and practice kissing my arm or with a stuffed animal lion I still had in my bedroom, trying to manifest that fateful day that something would finally happen, and I could finally be like part of that club that got girls or something. So, like I said, I didn't really have my group of friends my freshman year of high school. I got there to my new school, and many of my friends from middle school they went to a different high school that they were just zoned into, and I had a falling out with some of my other friends a few months prior. So one of my remaining friends, Chris, he got adopted into a different group, or at least thought he did, and ditched me. It ended up being a disaster for him, but more on that in another video. So I didn't really fit into another group. I kind of fell back on some of the gamer friends I had. Like we would play games on Steam. We would play Counter Strike, Age of Empires. But there was a couple of kids in that group that I liked and I was friends with, and I thought they were funny. But everybody else, it's like they spoke in Reddit language, and I just couldn't really get along with the rest of that group. The jokes weren't that funny. I didn't really get them. And they were saying a lot of like the cringe internet stuff that you would hear back in those days of 2014 to 2015. And it just wasn't really my thing. To make it even more tiring, I would go home every day, and these are like my group of friends online too. So I'd get on Steam, we'd play Counter Strike, and this is like this would be the same conversation at the lunch tables I'd be having for 3 4 hours a day after school, playing competitive in Counter Strike, which after a while just got really really old. And I hate to say it, I really hate to say it, but there was a big part of me that felt like I grew out of these guys back in middle school, and it was time for me to move on and do more adolescent stuff. Stuff I shouldn't be doing because I was kind of a rebel back in middle school, back in especially that last year in middle school. I was doing a lot of bad stuff. And not like that was a good thing or like that was cool. Being in that mindset at the time, I felt like I was making a backwards turn and I wasn't really having any fun. And I knew that what I really wanted to do in high school, which was, do the things that you saw in those teen movies that you'd see back in the day, then this wasn't really the group. So after a while, I just started roaming on my own during lunch. I'd spend extra time in the bathroom, going to my locker, writing in a journal about BS, and just passing time until the next class. I remember I hated lunch because there was like this pressure that you'd have to be with someone or you had to be with a group or you're a loner. I just didn't really feel like I belonged anywhere. So anyways, I'm setting the stage of the setting of what kind of person I was back then. And I remember I always noticed this girl named Gabby. And boy, Gabby had a rack on her. Compared to the rest of our class, Gabby was very developmentally mature, so well, naturally, my eyes would often be wandering and landing on her. Also, she has these really pretty bright blue eyes, which for a Latina girl like her really stood out. She wasn't one of the popular girls, but she was still miles above me in terms of social status, which I know it's so cringe saying this as a 25-year-old, but it really was true. I'd see her around, but I never really grew a pair to go speak to her. Until one day, this one girl named Brianna, she randomly came up to me, I think it was in the lunch line or around school, and she had really pretty eyes. And every time I'd see her around school, she'd be like, "Hey, pretty eyes. How you doing, pretty eyes?" Things like that. And up until that point, I thought that that was just something that my mom and or her friends and other family would say, like, just to gas me up or whatever. Finally, someone my age was saying it, and it was a member of the opposite sex. So that was a pretty big deal to me. So this was actually the first time I DM'd a woman, and I managed to find the DMs, which is crazy. This is from so long ago. Here's the DMs. Hey, pretty eyes. She literally said, "Hey, pretty eyes" in the text. I love that. And then I said, "You're pretty chill. I saw you in Gabby's pic. What's up? Cleaning my room. Um, I don't know. My mom went out. I ordered a pizza. She said, lucky because I'm home alone or because I have a pizza." She said both. And looking back, I mean, this was like such a layup to like, try and get flirty with the conversation. But back then, I literally had no idea how to, how to like make this conversation to something more flirty. So I got her number, and I'm like, to me, getting someone's phone number, that was like, that was like the job's done. But I'm like, what do I do with this phone number, right? I'm like I never really got this far before, you know? So I can't find the iMessages because that was just so long ago. But we texted for a little bit and it just fizzled out and nothing really happened. But I was still moving different for a little bit. I was like, man, I got a girl's phone number type thing. Like I don't think like a lot of my friends can be able to say that. I like risked someone up, didn't know how to close a deal, but still got farther than you guys type thing. Well, either way, that interaction gave me confidence. So somehow, I'm not even sure if we spoke in person before. I got Gabby, that developmentally mature girl I was talking about earlier. I got her Instagram, and I pulled the most ninth grade move ever. I found that text conversation too, which was a couple months after the other one. I still have her on Instagram. I found the messages, and this is the holy grail. I didn't even know what to say. I'm like, she said homework. I'm like, cool. You want to hang out? And this would only work if you're like under the age of 16. This is so nostalgic. I don't even think we had any rapport before, so I don't know how I got this far and why she was willing to hang out with me. It's just hilarious because it's just not like this as adults, you know? So we went on iMessage and after that, and I don't have any conversation from that, but I remember I literally asked Gabby if she wanted to kiss or hook up. And she was like, I'm down, but why did you have to ask like that? And I'm like, what do you mean? She said, like, haven't you seen a movie before? No one asks to if they want to hook up like that. And she had a point, but I just didn't know how to initiate or how to like lead a conversation up to that transition to that point. So that was the best that I could do. And we chatted about BS for a little while longer, and eventually we did hang out. We lived pretty close by, so I walked over to her house. I knocked on her door, and I remember her dad answered. I was like, is Gabby here? Super awkwardly. I felt like I was asking this dad if I could get his daughter's hand in marriage. I'd always see those clips of the dad coming out with a shotgun, like, oh, you want to date my daughter? With like the cigarette popping out of his mouth. But she showed up with the door with her golden retriever, and we went on a walk together, just chatting about BS. And so, again, I asked if she wanted to kiss over text, but like, I didn't know how to initiate that. So we were walking around, and, eventually she needed to go back and do homework after an hour, to which I thought, damn. Like, I really couldn't do it. I couldn't make this happen. I'm probably never gonna hang out with a girl again. I don't know how I'm gonna come back from this. I felt like I walked home that day like one of those samurais that like was about to go off himself because he dishonored his whole army or his squad. I remember her neighbor was there, and it was like it was someone I was acquainted with from school, and I don't even think he had any experience with girls, but he was like, yeah, dude, Gabby, like you were trying to hang out with Gabby, hook up with her, pretty much saying that she was out of my league. And he was like, yeah, you need to have some confidence and you need to just do it. And honestly, to anyone around that age, 14, 15, 16, to anyone watching this around that age, don't hang out with girls thinking you're going to have sex or you're going to kiss them or whatever, because it's never going to go anywhere if you have that mindset. You just need to build comfort. And I didn't have the right mindset. So I was going in there like a gooner, stressing myself out, thinking that I needed to get sexual with this conversation, when in reality, I just had to play it cool and casual. I walked home that day and I never texted her again. I was embarrassed, and eh, I don't even know why I didn't try again. I could have just built up some more rapport and hung out a little bit more. But I just felt like she didn't want me because we didn't kiss, which is so dumb looking back on it. I think I was also afraid that maybe she was gonna like paint me as some gooner trying to slide in with her super badly, but I was just way into my head and worrying too much about what people think about me. So that's another thing. You're at that age, you're wondering like what people are gonna think about you in school. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. I'm not saying go do whatever you want, but what I was thinking, what I wanted to do, just like chat with her, was that's just like a part of growing up, and I was way overthinking it. But if I didn't have that experience freshman year, that really awkward experience, then it probably wouldn't have happened until sophomore year or junior year. And it's good to have these learning lessons early, because the more you do it, the more that you're not afraid to do it the next time. It prepares you for when something real comes around. And I think all of that, all of those experiences, they make us better men. And I had a lot more moments like this when I folded or screwed up after this. So it's just part of being a kid. And so many people put pressure on themselves to perform. And I mean, they should. Get out of that comfort zone, but don't punish yourself over it or let it consume your whole mind. Teenagers should not be having sex with each other at 14, and they shouldn't be thinking that they failed at life because that fateful day still hasn't come around by their 17th birthday. It's just ridiculous. And don't think of yourself as any less of a man just because of that. Eventually, one is going to get there, and it's all about the steps along the way. Hang out with the boys, make friends, go outside, play sports. Things will fall into place. Just don't let these things consume your mind. Anyways, I just wanted to share that story with you guys because it's like a coming of age story, and I didn't want to say it in a Hollywood way. I wanted to say it like how it really went down. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I have so many stories I'd like to share with you guys. Um, Feel free to subscribe. I'd love if you guys if I build a little community here over on Saffron Spiels. So feel free to leave a comment down below with your experiences something like this. I'd love to start a thread of everyone starting like their talking about their first experiences. That would be super cool. And I'll see you guys in the next video.